Joseph Manganiello, Joey Mangos to his friends, Deathstroke to his enemies, Flash Thompson to Peter Parker, a guy I wouldn't want to fight neither, and Archon the Cruel to Nerds, of which I am one. An all-around cool fella with a killer Arnold Schwarzenegger impersonation. Play the clip.
I walked up to his table and I, met him from training and whatnot. And I walked up and said, "Hey, Arnold, it's Joe from training today." He goes, "Look at you, you're all pumped up. Look at these, look at the triceps and the biceps and the delts. You're all pumped up, And I was like I didn't even want to sit down. I just wanted to go get on the phone and call everybody I knew and be like, "Arnold said I was pumped up. You're not gonna believe it."
Maybe teasing a return of his Deathstroke, which is highly unlikely to be in the DCU for so many reasons. So Joe Manganiello posts this video clip from Justice League, specifically Zack Snyder's, and he calls out Zack Snyder, not just Deathstroke, in the hashtags below, saying, "You better not be wasting my time," which certainly sounds like something someone would do to tease that they were working on something. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that what he's working on will come to fruition. There are a lot of moving parts. Paramount and Netflix are both vying for control. Joe has a lot of projects that have been in rumination for a while, so it may not even be DC related, although I think it is. So let's count the things that it could be that aren't that. Joe could have been cast in Zack Snyder's Brawler movie for Paramount, which is moving forward for the UFC project that he's doing. It's backed by the UFC. They're trying to make it kind of their Rocky Balboa experience. So it could be that he was just cast in Zack Snyder's UFC project or circling that concept. It could be that Joe is finally getting that D&D project he's been working on off the ground. I believe it was Dragonlance. I want to say Dragonheart, but that's the movie which has the Sean Connery dragon. I can never remember if it's really Sean Connery or someone doing an impersonation. But he's been trying to get that done. The D&D movie with Chris Pine underperformed according to Hasbro, and Hasbro owns Wizards of the Coast, which owns Dungeons & Dragons. So it ruminated for quite some time, and that was a sore spot for many a fan. So like I mentioned before, Archon the Cruel, Joe Manganiello is a big D&D nerd, so if you roll dice, you probably know this guy. You don't just want to fight him neither, you also probably respect him a little bit as a creative guy. So it could be that. So it could be UFC, it could be that, it could be some third project that we don't have any knowledge of. It could also be that Deathstroke Bane movie in the DCU is finally coming to fruition and that Joe wants Zack to direct. We know that James is friends with Zack, and that is a seeming possibility. Once they posted that selfie together during the Rick and Morty taping, everyone who said that Zack Snyder sucks at everything and is a living cancer on the human species was suddenly very keen on him directing something like The Authority or what have you, which I think both proves that Zack has widespread appeal, and the people who pretend to hate him are literally one selfie away from turning around and becoming his biggest fans. It's insane. Suddenly people were posting videos from movies that they said they hated, saying that it was awesome and they should do this with characters from The Authority. And I was like, man, I'm getting very mixed messages right now. So I find that unlikely, though, given that James Gunn told Joe in 2024 to let it go, like that Pixar character that everyone makes weird porn of. I don't care for that. And the fact that he was trying to recast Joe back in the Suicide Squad. You see, Idris Elba plays a character who is either Bloodshot or Bloodsport. I can't fucking remember, despite him being the best actor in that movie. One of them is Vin Diesel. One of them is a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie. And in the comics, he's a Vietnam sort of tied story, which you could make, 9/11 Iraq. You could update that for the modern times, but they made him a Deadshot ripoff, where he just he yells at his daughter. He's just a bad father figure. Bunch of unfortunate stereotypes that someone decided to lean into when writing the character. But he wasn't just a Deadshot ripoff. He was supposed to be a Deathstroke ripoff. You look at the concept art of Deathstroke, concept art to whatever Idris Elba's name was in that final form, and it's just Idris Elba was supposed to replace John Manganiello's within the canon of the DCEU. This is pre-DCU reboot, which I know doesn't matter because the DCU is just the DCEU, but with like 5 people recast. So I understand how there could be some confusion there, but James has always been recasting. So I find it unlikely that the dude who said, "Get out of my way, I'm not doing that," and who was already trying to recast him back when he did the Suicide Squad in 2021, is going to be keen on bringing Joe back, despite the crazy work that Joe put into the character. See, when Joe was cast as Batman's villain for the Batman solo movie, which again, drawing from the Arkham games, 50% of them involve that rivalry. Not new. Animation even has it where they are league rivals and they fight each other. So again, not breaking new ground, not breaking canon, not doing anything that should offend anyone who wants to have fun. If James Gunn can fundamentally change most of the characters he adapts, you can accept that a version of Deathstroke fights a version of Batman. In a movie where Batman was going to basically, like in The Raid or Dread, be stuck in Arkham Asylum and have to fight through a gauntlet of his rogues, which sounds dope as hell. Batman The Raid or Batman Dread is just already a sick premise. But he worked not just on being a Batman rival. He had a entire character Bible because he's a D&D nerd, and so he wrote a character Bible. And he learned martial arts, which he created a new martial art form that uses one eye to see as much of the room as possible and limit his weaknesses. He developed a character arc, multiple script outlines, which I think would probably be based on the Michael Ironsides animated movie. If you haven't seen it, it's pretty good. It's sort of like how the Arkham Suicide Squad animated movie was a test bed for if a Suicide Squad movie in live action would work. Similar concept played out here with Sam Fisher. Hey, what up, Splinter Cell, being Deathstroke. Super rad. And I think it probably would have taken elements from that, very possibly. Similar stuff happened in the CW with Manu Bennett. Super underrated actor. Great fucking character, Crixus in Spartacus series. Really fucking good. In every version of Warner Brothers and DC, they wanted to do something with the work he had done, whether it be a solo movie, a team up movie. These are the versions that don't like Zack, the versions that are okay with Zack, the versions that, detest his name and blame him for everything. They were still like, yo, this is sick. And then when the DC was like, we're never doing this, he was like, hey, okay, well, why don't we make it a comic book? And they're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And he was like, but if you make it into a comic book and people like it and you want to adapt it, I get to be the guy. You don't get to recast me with Idris Elba or whoever the hell. And they were like, we can't guarantee that. And so he walked away. So maybe he struck a deal with one of the two corporations that is trying to purchase DC to say that your solo movie can come to pass or that your, Batman and Deathstroke battle can come to pass. That Batman story can come up. Or maybe he's just working on another side project and felt inspired, and he was just like, I hope this turns out and it works, and I'm going to use this thing that I was in as a reference, and maybe it has some connection to Zack Snyder or to DC, or maybe it doesn't, and he just likes reminiscing about cool characters that he felt like he left things unfinished with. I'll leave it to you. What do you think the probabilities are? 30%, 50%, 70% that he is working to bring Deathstroke back and that comes to pass? Because even if he has locked it in for sure with a studio, that studio still has to purchase Warner Brothers, still has to merge, still has to restructure, and then has to begin the rollout. And I'm not saying that this is 100% confirmed. James Gunn sucks doo-doo butt and Zack Snyder is God and you are a big poo-poo loser head and we won and you lost. Fuck you. Don't get me wrong, a lot of James Gunn fans are violent, racist, sexist pieces of shit, and several of them have threatened my wife. But I'm not going to lash out an entire fan base and punish them based on the assholes that I've dealt with because I'm a mature, rational, adult human being. I actually hope for a number of reasons that they, regardless of what happens with DC as a brand, get to finish their story off in a meaningful way. Maybe a Brainiac movie, a Justice League movie, whatever. Finish up a trilogy with their Superman. Tie those loose ends up in a way that's meaningful, like Superman and Lois, forced to end too soon, but given a heads up so they could end things on their own terms. Forced to by James Gunn and the DCU. So I'm offering that exact same project to them. Meaningful conclusion, so that they can go through because I believe DC is a multiverse and therefore they should allow multiple instances to coexist, even though Warner Brothers has never believed in that in its prior iterations. Also, I just don't like the idea of a bunch of people who attacked people for using hashtags to try and get sequels made, attacking people and then using hashtags to get their sequels made because I think the sheer hypocrisy would make my head explode. But I also believe that Joe coming back or Ben coming back or Henry or any of this stuff coming back and tying up their loose ends should in no way impede or influence what happens with other DC projects. I think the idea of a DC multiverse means we should all get what we want, and I want something for myself, which is in no way contingent on people I disagree with suffering more, because I am a fan of the thing that I want, not a hater of people who I want to see suffer. And that's a big delineation that I do think the DC fandom and fandoms at large should really kind of drill down into and clarify. So you let me know. Are you interested in Joe coming back? Are you interested in what this could imply for the larger DC universe? Do you think the DCU will get a chance to end under its own terms? And how long do you think it has with new ownership? All of these are questions that we're really just taking a stab in the dark at. So I'm not saying that James is on the chopping block because he could continue to have people who have no problem with his performance. They just want the accolades the internet gives them, even though the new Superman movie sold half as many tickets, had the exact same cinema score. I'm not rooting for him to fail. I'm not expecting him to fail. I'm just hoping that I can also get something that I want whilst that figures out what it's going to do. Because I think real fandom is supporting the things you want and just kind of putting the guardrails on and ignoring the things you don't really want to talk about. I think it's entertainment, and at the end of the day, it's really more important to revel in the things that you love rather than fixate on the things that you don't. That's just my 2 cents. But I would very much like to see Joseph Manganiello back as Deathstroke. I also wouldn't mind him being in the Brawler. I'm pretty much happy both ways.